I want to move on to the whole Epstein matter. I did something recently on that because this latest victim, that committed
Virginia,
suicide,
Jeffrey,
Jeffrey,
yeah.
yeah. It's sickening to me that we don't have accountability, that this list is probably never going to be, really made public. Who knows how it's going to be redacted and whose names are going to appear and whose not names are going to appear. I mean, there's so many things that are being covered up that the American people don't know. I've been very vocal about it lately, especially about this whole Doge thing. I mean, this is something crazy. I said, the only way you bring these people to the table, if everybody got up and said, hey, we're not paying our taxes until you're accountable to us on everything that's going on, where all this money is being spent. There's no way for us really to put pressure on people to find accountability. What's your thoughts on that with Epstein? I will tell you this before you answer that. I was on the exact same tier, in the exact same cell block that Epstein was. There's no way, in my estimation, that that guy committed suicide. No way. Cameras don't go out all at once. People don't stop walking the tier. I mean, there was times there, the toilet is right there in the open. You don't even want to go to the toilet because people are going back and forth all the time. And there's no method in there to commit suicide, to hang yourself like he did. You couldn't do it. You just couldn't
Yeah,
do it. So,
yeah.
starting with that, um, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't think we're going to be getting transparency on Epstein anytime soon. I think it's possible that in the long run we will. I don't know how long that run will be, whether that's a year from now, 2 years from now, or 60 years from now, like we're starting to finally get these JFK declassifications. The fact is the Epstein case is very, very, very recent, and the people involved are all alive and well, and many of them in very powerful positions in the U.S. government and internationally. So it's not like the JFK situation where, everyone is dead or has been dead for 20, 30 years in terms of playing senior roles in the intelligence layer of that, or the mafia layer of that, or internationally, you name it. And Trump is definitely on to the Epstein situation. I just posted this the other day in February 2015, when Trump was beginning his run for the presidency the first time. He gave a talk, I believe it was at CPAC, where he was asked his thoughts on Bill Clinton, and he says, "Well, Bill Clinton, he's a nice guy, but I think he's going to have some problems with this Jeffrey Epstein island." And the crowd sort of let out a gasp that Trump 10 years ago now, over 10 years ago, was saying that Bill Clinton was going to go down in the Epstein scandal. And the fact is this did happen under his watch. It was in 2019. It happened under his own Justice Department. Bill Barr was the head of the Justice Department when Epstein died in prison. I totally agree with your analysis. There's no way both security cameras glitch out, both security guards fall asleep, the visitor log page is ripped out of the notebook, and who was the head of the Justice Department at the time that happened under? It was Bill Barr. Bill
Right.
Barr was the CIA's mop-up man. He told his high school guidance counselor, this is in his own autobiography, that his dream job was to run the CIA. His first job was working for the CIA. His first 7 years of his career he spent at the CIA. He went to night law school while he was at the CIA, basically worked through law school with the CIA. His first job out of law school was protecting the CIA from the Iran-Contra investigation when the CIA was perceived to have gone rogue to work in tandem with Santos Traficante and the whole Tampa and Louisiana and network and Miami in order to run guns to the Nicaraguan Contras and to work with all the different paramilitary groups that needed guns and laundered money all over Operation Condor and Iran Contra. There, when Congress tried to investigate the CIA, it was Bill Barr. Literally, the Washington Post described him as the mop-up man, the CIA's mop-up man, to block congressional inquiry into Iran Contra. He then becomes the head of the Justice Department twice. The second time under Trump, and not only that, Bill Barr's father, Donald Barr, was the mentor to Jeffrey Epstein. He was literally, was a student of Bill Barr's dad, at the same high school. So, I mean, there's the family connection, there's the intelligence connection. Of course, Jeffrey Epstein, when Alex Acosta, who was the nominee for the Secretary of Labor, again, the labor division is unions. That's a big, that the Department of Labor spends hundreds of millions of dollars through its international affairs branch to fund the international wings of unions, like the AFL-CIO, and I can go through a million examples of that. But the fact is, when Alex Acosta was asked, why did you, because he was the prosecutor, he was the Epstein prosecutor in the initial case where Epstein was, given a wrist slap and let off. And he was asked by the press, well, why didn't you go harder on Epstein? Why did you let him go? Because, and Acosta felt like he needed to answer this question because he had a Senate confirmation hearing coming up and didn't want the scandal hanging over him. He said, I was told to back off Epstein because he belonged to intelligence.
I have a question for all my friends and followers. Have you tried my wine yet? In the last 2 years, we've made tremendous progress with Franzese wine, and it's really all thanks to your support, and obviously because people are finding out we have a great wine at a great price. In 2025, we aim to become a national brand, and I want all of you to be a part of it. Every bottle you buy, every story you share builds more than a brand. It fuels a movement. The story of our wine is one of people having second chances and of lives being transformed. That's the truth. So go to my website, franzesewine.com, and get your bottle today. Salud, my friends.
Now, that is an obvious thing to anyone who's studied the Epstein issue. Jeffrey Epstein was involved in arms trafficking during Iran-Contra. He negotiated the resettlement of Southern Air Transport from Mena, Arkansas, which was the main CIA air base under Bill Clinton in Arkansas during Iran-Contra, where they were running the cocaine from the Contras to the U.S. to retail it to cash, to buy guns, to send the guns back to the Contras. Jeffrey Epstein negotiated the resettlement of Southern Air Transport, the CIA proprietary airline, directly to Columbus, Ohio, which was the city controlled in large part by his main sponsor, Les Wexner. Les Wexner was the guy who gave him the multi-million-dollar mansion in New York, and who gave Epstein power of attorney over his entire financial empire. The fact is Epstein has been running through these CIA networks for 40 years, but there's also all the international networks. We don't know, for example, whether or not he belonged to intelligence meant just U.S. intelligence, although there absolutely was U.S. intelligence, but there could also be a role of Israeli intelligence. There could be a role of UK, British intelligence. There could be a role of Saudi intelligence because he was working with Adnan Khashoggi in Saudi Arabia. He was working with, he appeared to have deep ties to the royal family in the UK. And of course appears to have links to many aspects of Israeli intelligence. So, part of the reason that I think the Epstein case is too big to fail is because it's not just about embarrassing our own intelligence capacities, although I think the Trump administration has an interest in exposing those as part of the reforms, but there may be higher level talks happening at the international layer that Trump wants to maintain an alliance with, that are putting pressure on the Justice Department or putting pressure on various levels of the White House to not disclose them. And if that's the case, I don't think we're getting transparency anytime soon. And I don't think they'd tell us.
Yeah, I think you just nailed it. That's been my feeling all along because you got Trump, you got Bondi, you got Patel. They're running this thing. If they can't get it done, then somebody must be saying, hey, Donald, back off. You want relationships here? This is not something that can come out right now. I think that has to be the case. I think you just hit it right on the head. There's always a question, where did Epstein make all his money? Nobody really knows. And I think you just described it, all these relationships that he has, I have thought all along that he was a CIA operative, I'll call it, because I don't know what other term to use, but, you've even expanded that. It could be other agencies around the world that he was working covertly with all the while. Let me ask you this, and in a case like that, as compared to what would happen on the street, if they thought this guy was going to finally open up because he doesn't want to face prison time, well, they're going to eliminate him. End of story. That's it. It's going to be done. That's so mob-like. Let me ask you, Ghislaine Maxwell. I don't know what information she knew, how much Epstein really confided in her, but I'm sure she's seen very powerful people come through. People said, well, why didn't she get killed? Or why didn't they try to do something with her? And I said, listen, maybe they went to her and said, listen, you saw what happened to Epstein. You saw, if you don't keep your mouth shut, the same thing's going to happen to you. And she took her time, and maybe she'll get off a little bit early at some point. I don't know. But I've always wondered about that because she has to probably have some good intel also.
Oh yeah, I mean completely. And Ghislaine is not only a key figure in this with her relationship with Epstein, but Ghislaine's father, Robert Maxwell, who was this British publishing magnate. It came out at the end of his life after he died under mysterious circumstances himself. He fell off a boat and drowned, we're told. But it came out after the fact that he had belonged to Israeli intelligence his whole life, and that was something that he had denied until it was discovered after his death. And I think it would be too suspicious, frankly, if Ghislaine were to die after everything that's happened with Epstein. I think that this would go from a cold anger into a very hot one in terms of the international demand. But and I think that fact puts some limits on what can be done to contain her. But I think the fact that she is still alive and ostensibly will get out one day, or there could have been back channel agreements, and I'm just speculating here. But if I were, for example, the intelligence community in this situation, I would lean on the Justice Department to try to, propose something to her that we're not going to touch your family, we're not going to touch your loved ones. If you keep your mouth shut on this, we will limit the disclosures that go forward publicly. You will still get to live on through your friends and family, and one day you'll have your freedom. Maybe 10 years from now, maybe whenever. But keep your mouth shut, play ball, and you'll have the best shot you can. And I think, given the discretion that they've had and the long links that both Epstein and Maxwell have had with the intelligence community their whole life, I would not be surprised if that's exactly what's happening with Maxwell, and that Maxwell is going to keep her mouth shut in order to see through some sort of back-channeled quasi plea deal.
Yeah, it might be speculation on your part, Mike, but it's speculation with a lot of knowledge and expertise behind it. So I think that's, I just said it very simply, but I think you really went into it in detail. I think that's exactly what happened with her. Keep your mouth shut. At least you'll have a life. Nobody will bother your family. Do your time, get out, and just don't be writing any books or anything like that, and you'll be okay. But I think you nailed it. And, I think you're exactly right with the Epstein case. People are still alive and they're still around. They're still doing things. My friends, if you enjoyed this video, I'm going to give you an opportunity to become my partner in business. Franzese Wine experiencing tremendous growth over the past couple of years, and we're going to experience even further growth in the next few years. You're going to have an opportunity to be my partner because you've been supporting me, you've been my fan base, and I want to share this with you. So go to invest.franzesewine.com, and offer you shouldn't refuse.